Good morning from Santiago. Today is April 2nd, and we are going to be taking a walking tour in the pouring rain.
Do you know why is this city most famous for?
St. James?
Exactly, St. James. We have a hint here. Because of this beautiful cathedral. Because here inside we keep the remains of the Apostle St. James. And for that reason, a lot of people come here every year to see, the sepulchre, Santiago de Compostela, and so on. This square is kind of important because for most of the population, for most of the pilgrims actually, the camino ends here. But, however, this square is also really interesting because here the four powers of the city are gathered all together. We have four different buildings, this one, 2, 3, and 4, and each one of them represents a different power. For example, the first one, the most famous one, the cathedral. Come closer. So this cathedral was built between the 11th and the 13th century, which means the inside was built in Romanesque style. But on the outside, we have a little bit of everything. For example, this facade over here, this is not Romanesque at all. This is Baroque. It was restored in the 18th century. And we can see many people here represented. We're going to check who are they. For example, here in the middle, up there on top, there's a man dressed as a pilgrim. Do you know him? St. James, that's right. It's always him, actually. It's kind of ironic because St. James was never a pilgrim. The pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela started when they found his tomb, so he could never walk to see his tomb, of course. They represented him like that, so actual pilgrims, when they arrived here, they could feel closer to St. James and think, well, he was an apostle, but he's dressed just like us, so he's no better or worse than us. He's just like us. Now, a little bit below St. James, can you see a box surrounded by angels? Yeah? Well, that box is not a box. That's the sepulchre, the tomb of St. James that we keep in the cathedral with his remains. And then on both sides of the sepulchre, there are two men that look almost exactly the same as St. James, but they're not St. James. They are Theodorus and Athanasius, the two disciples of St. James that brought his body from the port of Haifa to this place. Now, there are two towers. They look almost exactly the same, but there's a difference between them. Can you spot the difference? The bells, exactly. Wait, an umbrella over there. So, this one has bells, the other one has no bells. From here we cannot see it, but in the other tower there's a 2-meter ratchet. What is a ratchet? It's a musical instrument that goes like ra, 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 which is kind of annoying, actually. Why do we have bells and a ratchet? We use the bells through all the year because they are a symbol of joy and celebration. However, during Easter, Holy Week for us, there's no joy and there's no celebration because we remember the death of Christ. So there's sadness and mourning. For that reason, when Christ is dead, between Friday and Sunday, of Resurrection Sunday, we use the ratchet as a symbol of sadness and mourning, of course. And then on Resurrection Sunday, when Christ is back again alive, we use the bells as a symbol of joy because of the resurrection of Christ, of course. Now, in the middle of each tower, there's a person. There, a man, and here, a woman. That man and woman are the parents of St. James, Zebedee, his father, and Mary Salome, his mother. And now there are two people left on each tower. First of all, there, woman and man. That woman over there is Saint Susanna, and Saint Susanna is the co-patron saint of this city. And you might think, well, the patron saint of this city must be St. James. But no, he's not, because St. James is the patron saint of Spain. Later, I will tell you why. The patron saint of this city is Saint Roque. Strange name, I guess. Now, next to Saint Susanna, up there, there's a small man with a quill, and that small man is Saint John the Evangelist. However, he's not there because he was an evangelist. He's there because he was the brother of St. James. So we have the whole family, parents and also brother. And now here, once again, we have man and woman. That small man over there is St. James the Less, because there were two different apostles that were called St. James. That man over there is St. James the Less. There were two different apostles that were called St. James. One of them is buried under the main altar of the cathedral, and the second one is here because in the museum of the cathedral there's a room called the relic room, where we keep a lot of relics, head bones, and fingers of many different saints. And the most famous relic is the head of that man. That's why he's up there. Creepy information, I guess. And now, next to St. James the Less, that woman is St. Barbara. St. Barbara is, first of all, the patron of the miners and the masons. And this square, this is the place where the stonemasons of the cathedral used to work in the past. That's the first reason why she's up there. However, St. Barbara is also known to be the protector against lightnings and storms. And here, as you can see, we have a lot of storms. Interesting information. Here in Santiago de Compostela, it rains twice as much as it rains in London. So imagine, this is hell, basically. Before the 50s, we just had St. Barbara to protect us against the lightnings, but nowadays, there, in the corner, there's a small column, and then a rope that goes up there to the top. So that's the current system of the cathedral against lightnings. I guess St. Barbara wasn't enough in the end. She wasn't doing her job. So, first power, the cathedral, of course, the church. It's interesting to note that there are two buildings attached to the cathedral. They look like they are the cathedral, but they are not. First one, that one over there. That building over there is called the Archbishop Palace or Shelmírez Palace. The construction of that building was ordered by Shelmírez, who was the first Archbishop of Santiago de Compostela. In the past, that was the residence of the Archbishop, of course. Nowadays, not anymore. And there we keep the temporary collection of the museum of the cathedral. And then here on the other side, there's another building, big one, and this is the museum of the cathedral, of course, where we keep the permanent collection of the museum. So once again, attached to the cathedral, but these buildings are not the cathedral itself. Now, second power, that building over there. Come a little bit closer. So do you know what that building is nowadays? No? A hotel, that's right, exactly, sorry. That's a hotel, that's right. A 5-star hotel, a parador. It's called the Hotel of the Catholic Monarchs. Who were the Catholic monarchs? They were Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabel of Castile, the two people that paid Christopher Columbus to go on a very special trip. And they were also the parents of Catherine of Aragon, who later went to England, married Henry VIII, and well, something happened there, I guess. So at the end of the 15th century, the Catholic monarchs arrived to Santiago, and they realized something. Nowadays, of course, it's hard to walk the camino, you know about this, but in the Middle Ages, it was even dangerous because people were robbed during the camino, they would fall, they used to have injuries, pandemics, illnesses, and not many hospitals during the way. For that reason, the Catholic monarchs decided to build a hospital for pilgrims, and there pilgrims could stay for 3 days for free, which looks like a really nice gesture, but had some hidden intentions, because historically, Galicia was a Spanish territory that did not pay much attention to the Catholic monarchs. So building a hospital for the population, it was like telling them, if we build it, now you must pay. It was kind of a blackmailing thing, and that's what happened, actually. Now, it's interesting to note that there are some chains that surround the building. You can see them, right? Well, those chains, they look really old because they are really old, from the beginning of the 16th century. And they were kind of important in that time because if you committed a crime, a felony here in Santiago, and you were fast and you jumped those chains, there you were under the jurisdiction of the laws of the Catholic monarchs, not under the jurisdiction of the laws of the city, which was once again another way of showing power to the people, to tell them our laws are more important than yours, so be careful, I guess. So, second power, the monarchy. Third power, this one, small, humble building. This power is education, because in the past, this building, it used to be a school for poor children, actually. And also there, men could learn about different crafts for free, which was also really nice. Nowadays, this is not a school anymore, but there we keep the rectorate, the administration of the University of Santiago, which is the biggest university here in Galicia and one of the oldest in Spain, because it dates back from the 15th century. It's kind of interesting to know that the population of Santiago is quite small. We are 100,000 people. But each year, from September to June, we receive 30,000 students, which is a great amount of young people, given the fact that we're a small town. Depending on the month, you can find a different city. For example, in summer, students go back to their homes to spend the summer, and of course, pilgrims crowd this place. And then in winter, pilgrims go back to their homes, and students come back to study. So depending on the month, you can find a different city. Now, last power, this one over here. But to see it better, we will go There, once again, come with me, let's be brave. So, last power. Nowadays, this is the city hall of Santiago, the administration building of Santiago. Nowadays, it's the city hall, but it was created in the 18th century to be two things. First of all, a guest house for children and priests. Why children? Because most of the children that used to sing in the choir of the cathedral were orphans, didn't have a family, so they needed a place to stay. And also for priests, because in the past and even nowadays, a lot of them visit Santiago de Compostela. With this cathedral, makes sense. That in the one hand. But in the other hand, in the basements of this place, they decided to build a prison. They mixed children, priests, and prisoners. A strange choice. Nowadays, as I told you, it's just the city hall of Santiago de Compostela. There's a special man up there, riding a horse and carrying a sword. Do you know who he is? Yes, you do. St. James. It's always him. Okay. Exactly, that's right. St. James can be represented in three different ways: as an apostle, as a pilgrim, and also as a warrior, traditionally known here as the Muslim killer. Where does that representation come from? Here in the Iberian Peninsula, between the 9th and the 14th centuries, there were many battles between Christians and Muslims. They say that in the 9th century there was a small battle in Clavijo, in the middle of the peninsula, and they say that in this battle the leader of the Christians, he was kind of scared because there were less people, so he thought, we're going to lose, we don't have a chance. This man went to sleep and had a dream. He dreamed the Apostle St. James showed up as a warrior, and in the dream they won thanks to him. What happened the morning after? The exact same thing. They say that he actually showed up as a warrior and that they actually won thanks to him. It's important to remember that St. James died in the 1st century and this happened in the 9th. So this is basically the biggest or the most famous miracle that they say that he achieved. So that man over there, St. James, always him, actually. This building over here, this building is called the House of the Cabildo. What's the Cabildo? The Cabildo is the government, the administration of the cathedral. It consists on canons who are priests that take some exams, and if they pass the exams, they finally become part of this Cabildo. This building was built in the 18th century because in that time the Cabildo had a great idea. They wanted every square of the cathedral to have a big building to show some power to the people. There was a problem in that time because in the 18th century, people here, the population, had their homes built here in this square, so they did not have much space. What did they do in the end? They built a fake building. How? Come closer. Do you see that corner over there? That's the end of the building. That building is just 3 meters wide, and that's it. Oh. And behind we have homes of people, of course. So it looks really big? No, it's not. Less than 3 meters wide, actually. Nowadays, actually, this place is just an exhibition hall. And in the past, nobody met here. This was not the place where they meet, the Cabildo. This was just a really small school, and after that, basically an exhibition hall, and that's it. Now, about the square. This square is called Platerías because in Spanish, plata means silver. Nowadays, when we travel and so on, we want to buy souvenirs, right? Well, in the Middle Ages, it was the same thing. People here could buy souvenirs, crosses, shells, and so on, made out of silver. Nowadays, we have no silversmiths anymore, but we still have one shop left there where we can still buy silver. The last one is still resistant. Now, here in the middle of the square, there's a woman, and she's a special one because she's the faith. And the faith is telling us something. First of all, she's sitting on something. Looks like a box, but once again, that's not a box. That's the sepulchre, the tomb of St. James. And she's looking at the cathedral because she's telling us that she's in that cathedral placed on top of the sepulchre of St. James. Of course, if she's the faith, that's the place where she must be. And she's looking at that facade. And that's actually the only Romanesque facade that we have left in the cathedral. The rest of them, they were restored through the centuries. How do we know that that was built in Romanesque style? Well, first of all, because of the arches, the Romanesque arches. And second of all, because there we have no empty spaces. Everything is crowded with the sculptures. In the Romanesque period, they hated empty spaces and they used to crowd everything with the sculptures. Now, why do we have so many people there represented? Because that facade was built in the 12th century, when most of the population could not read or write. So that's how the cathedral taught people about this is Christ, this is St. James, this is all right, this is not all right. And if you sin, there will be consequences, of course. This square is called Quintana. Quintana just means big open space. This is the second biggest square of the cathedral. However, there are two different quintanas. One of them here, downstairs, the big one, this is Quintana de Muertos, Quintana of the dead people. And then upstairs, that small area, is called Quintana de Vivos, Quintana of the living people. Why dead and living people? Because here, in the past, we used to have a cemetery, the biggest cemetery in Santiago. At the end of the 17th century, they realized that it was kind of unhealthy to have dead bodies here in a place where so many people used to walk every day. Especially because in the past here, we didn't have stone or concrete. We had just mud. And when it rained, you could see here parts of bodies. Yeah. So at the end of the 17th century, they moved the bodies, the corpses, from here to the surroundings of the city. Now, there's a special tower here in this square. That one is called the clock tower, because on each face of the tower, there's a clock, of course. Now, can you tell what time it is by that clock? Complicated. That clock has just one hand, which is pointing between 10 and 11, more or less, because it's 10:30, almost. So, makes sense. We can tell the hour by the clock, but not the minutes. How can we tell the minutes? By listening to the bells of the clock tower. One bell means quarter past, two bells, half past, three bells, quarter to, and then at the clock, for example, 3 o'clock, first 4 bells, and then 3 bells because it's 3 o'clock, so 7 in total. If you hear 7 bells at 3 o'clock, it's not because it's broken, it's because it's how it tells the hour. Both day and night, it's horrible. At the very end of that tower, over there, there's a small spot at the very end with some really small windows. Those small windows over there are a really small lighthouse. And that lighthouse only lights during holy years. Have you heard about a holy year? Yeah? Well, before we speak about the holy year, I want you to know that there we keep the holy door. Later we will take a better look. So that door only gets opened during holy years. To be a holy year, July 25th, which is the day of St. James, must fall on a Sunday. And this happens every 5, 6, and 11 years. Now, these years are really important, because everybody can come here to the cathedral and get the plenary indulgency, which is the plenary forgiveness of all their sins. To get it, they must... 2 bells. That's it. So, we're kind of lucky here in Santiago because this door gets opened every 5, 6, and 11 years. In Rome, they also have a holy door that gets opened every 25 years. And in Jerusalem, they have another door that gets opened every 50 years. So once again, we're kind of lucky here in Santiago. The next holy year here in Santiago de Compostela will be 2027. However, next year, 2025, will be a holy year in Rome, just so you know, a special occasion.
Next year?
Next year, that's right, 2025. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
For the whole year. And then we have to wait 25 more years. So, special year.
25
Yeah.
or 50, I think.
Sorry?
Every 25 years.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, next thing. This building over here. What do you think this building is? What does it look like? Prison, that's right. Something similar. It's a convent of cloistered nuns. So the women that live here, nowadays less than 20, they barely leave this place, okay? They are really famous for 2 things. First of all, because they play the organs and they sing really well during their masses. They have a small church there in the middle. And then they are also really famous because they bake. What do they bake? Cookies, pastries, and the most famous thing, Santiago cake or St. James cake, which is the most famous dessert here in Santiago de Compostela. Santiago cake seems easy to bake because it has just 3 ingredients, almond, sugar, and egg. However, usually I do not like Santiago cake, but I like theirs. I don't know why, must be the faith, something like that, but I love it. Later, Later, if you want to try what they sell, I will show you the entrance, which is on the opposite side of Quintana, the square.
Cool. I'll buy one. You can buy one anytime.
Exactly, yeah. Well, they open some hours in the morning and some hours in the afternoon. The name of this square is called Azabacheria. Strange name, because azabache in Spanish means jetstone. And this is the place where the craftsmen that used to work with jetstone used to sell their products. On the other side, we could buy silver, well, here, jetstone. Now, what is the jetstone? Come with me. All of these black stones are called jetstone. However, they are actually not a stone. They are a type of charcoal. And it's kind of a special material because it's really hard to get it. Here in the Iberian Peninsula, we just have jetstone in Galicia and Asturias. In the rest of the peninsula, there's no jetstone at all. As you can see, they do many things with this black stone, but the most famous one is this over here, this symbol. This is a finger, well, a fist with a finger like this, okay? And this is called figa. This symbol is quite famous here in Santiago because a lot of citizens, both women and men, they wear necklaces, bracelets, and earrings with this kind of symbol because they say that it protects against the evil eye and the envies. Careful, because if you want a figa, you must follow some rules. First rule, you cannot buy it for you. Someone has to buy it and give it to you as a present. Otherwise, it won't protect you. And some people say that it might do the opposite effect, so be careful, I guess. Second rule, if you have a figa and it breaks, you cannot keep it or try to fix it. You must bury it under the earth, so all bad things, the evil eyes and so on, stay in the earth and not with you. But those are the only rules. The rest is normal, promised, okay? This is the last square of the cathedral, and this is the last facade of the cathedral, of course. In the past, this facade was called the Paradise Facade because it was dedicated to Adam and Eve, who of course lived in the paradise. In the 18th century, after a fire, they had to restore it, and they restored it using neoclassical style. That's why it looks so beautiful and so elegant. That woman over there, on top, that's the blind faith, okay? So just so you know. And that man over there, on top, on the very top, who is that man? St. James, that's right, always him. Monastery of St. Martin Pinario. This monastery belonged in the past to the Benedictine order. They built it in the 14th century, and in that time, the Benedictine order wanted this building to be the tallest building in the city. There was a problem in that time, and even nowadays, because there's a law that says that no building can be taller than the cathedral here in the Old Town. So they thought, well, if we cannot be the tallest building, we can be the biggest one, the widest. This is the second biggest monastery in Spain, in the whole country. They took it seriously. The first one, the biggest one, is in Madrid, called El Escorial. Nowadays, no monks live here anymore, but we can find many things here inside because, as I told you, it's huge. For example, in that area, there's a small guest house and also, well, not a small, actually, a guest house and also a major seminary. So priests can study, well, young priests can study to become priests, you know. Here in the middle, we keep the faculty of social work and also theology. And also here on this side, we keep the historical archive of the cathedral, a really small museum, and also, if you crossed a door over there, we would see a bookshop of religious books. So many things inside because this place is huge, as I told you. And for the first time, that man over there is not St. James, okay? That's St. Martin of Tours. From here, it looks like he's killing someone with a sword, but he's actually not killing him. He's giving the man over there on his knees, his, how do you call this thing? The gentleman uses. Cape? A cape, that's right. He's giving the man his cape so he can cover himself. So it looks creepy from here, but actually it's a nice gesture. So this square is called Cervantes Square because Cervantes is up there. Looks like Shakespeare, he's not. He's a Spanish Shakespeare, I guess. He wrote Don Quixote de la Mancha, the most famous book in the history of Spanish literature. Now, this square was kind of important in the past because, first of all, that's where the city hall was located. But then, in the 19th century, they moved it to the Obradoiro Square, where it is now. And also here, in this square, in the past, we used to have the market of the city. What happened with this market? Well, there were some people that were really lucky and had a spot here under the arches, which was great because when it rained, they could be placed here. But most of the people, they had to be there under the rain and it was kind of uncomfortable. For that reason, at the end of the 19th century, they decided to build a new marketplace with some buildings so nobody could get wet. Now, if this is where the market was located, that corner over there, that's where the town crier of the city was located. Who was the town crier? It was a man that stood up there each morning and he used to tell people about the news. For example, how much did the bread or the meat cost that morning, who married who went to prison, who was missing maybe. So he was basically a human newspaper. Now there were some people that were on time each morning and they could hear the town crier. But I think that the oldest tradition here in Spain is the fact that we always arrive late. So when people arrived late there, they used to ask the man, "Excuse me, sir, can you repeat, please? Do you know how much does the bread cost? Have you seen my brother? Do you know? Do you know?" Well, that street over there, you will see now, it's called Preguntoiro, because that's the street of the questions. Pregunta in Spanish means question. So when people had a question, they had to go there and ask that poor man, that I'm sure that hated his job. Nowadays, we have no town crier anymore, but that street over there is one of the most special streets for me, because there we can find many places where we can buy bread, chocolate, sweets, and so on. And actually there, in that street, we will see the entrance to the convent of the nuns, the ones that they bake. Come with me. From here, we can see the clock tower, because we are in the opposite side of Quintana Square. So that's the entrance to the convent of the nuns. If you want to try what they sell, it's really easy. You cross those gates and in the right side you will find a window with all the products that they sell, the names, the prices, and so on. And then on the opposite side you will find another window, but with some bars and a bell. You ring the bell, you wait for the nun to show up. It's a really big building, less than 20 women living there, and most of them are quite old, so it might take sometimes 10, 15 minutes, but they always show up, promised. When they show up, you tell them what you want, they will go and get it for you, you wait again, they will come back, you pay, and that's it. Don't worry about your language, about the accent, about anything. They've been doing this for many years, and they are all really kind, so don't be shy, okay? That's what I mean. This is the new marketplace, well, from the 19th century, but I guess that newer than the other one. This place is really big. It has 8 different buildings. In each one of these buildings, you will find a different product. For example, the cheese building, the meat building, and so on. And here, this one in the corner, this is a very special one because this is called the gastronomic building. Inside, you will find many small restaurants where you can have a drink, lunch, or whatever you want. Now, interesting information. Here in this market, of course, you can buy whichever product that you want. But if you buy a meat or a seafood product, you can take it there to the gastronomic building and they will cook it for you in the moment. So you choose the product and there you can eat it in the very moment. And the cooking thing is quite cheap because it only costs 7 euros per person, so it's quite nice. Of course, the products that you will find here, they do not come from supermarkets or so on. Of course, meat, fish and seafood, they come from the shores in the morning. People there inside selling vegetables or flowers, they grow them at home, so couldn't be fresher. And here on the sides, you will find people selling handmade and craft things, so it's also kind of interesting. Now this square is kind of special because here you can find 3 restaurants with a Michelin star. And you might think, well, if they have a Michelin star, they must be really expensive. But no, they are not. The degustation menus of these places cost between 20, 25 and 40, 45 euros. So not the cheapest thing, but well, I guess that not that expensive, of course. The first one is that one over there with those green signs. That one is called Altamira. That one is the most famous one because if you take a look at the door later, you will see that it has 5 different Michelin stars. So special one. The second one is on the other side, there, in that corner over there. And it's called Lume, L-U-M-E, which means fire flame in Galician. And now the third one is there in the middle, next to the entrance of the market. And it's called Abastos 2.0, because this place is called the Market of Abastos, so it's basically a fancy name, you know. The old town of Santiago was declared World Heritage Site by the UNESCO in 1985, which means that absolutely nothing can be modified. It has to stay exactly the same as it was in that time. That's why here we have no McDonald's, Burger King, and so on, which is great, of course. And here everything has to follow the same aesthetic. That's why every building looks similar to the other one. That's the reason why.
are going to the convent to buy our Santiago torte or cake from the nuns. Hola, nosotros compró dos tortas.
No tenemos en este momento, hasta cerca de la 1 no hay.
Okay, so a la una.
A la 1 sí ya habrá.
Okay, gracias.
Muy bien.
Here we are at noon, and we would love to have lunch, but it's difficult to find something that's open. A lot of places don't open until 1, and if you find something more earlier, it's more breakfast oriented. Once in a while you can, but for the most part it's 1 to 4, and then things close and you can't get dinner really until like 7. The locals tend to eat dinner at like 8, 9, 10, 11, and then they stay up to 1 o'clock in the morning. How they go to work the next morning, I'll never know.
Well, Sue is feeling under the weather, so she's back at the hotel resting, and I just went by this great tapas place. I stopped at the convent where the cloister nuns sell the Galician bread, and now I'm going back to rest because the epidemiologist I met on the trail told me to rest. So that's what I'm gonna do to help get better.
This bar claims to be the oldest one in all of Santiago, so let's go check it out. Hola, ¿abierto?
Left the oldest bar in Santiago with music, and we asked him where to go to eat, and he's like, ooh, there's really nothing open till 8:30, and he goes, and the things that would be open now are probably not that good. So here we are again, starving, and we had our cup of noodles already, so but we'll be okay.
Maybe.
Keep looking.
All right.
Yes.
Keep walking.
The whole thing, though, is going to bed early and getting up. Not in Spain.
No,
when
not
in Spain, do the same.
Yeah, except
Go to bed at 1 in the morning.
when you're a pilgrim, it's not as
know.
easy.
So
But we're
have
at the
food on
end.
hand.
But we're at the end, so we should be able to do this, right?
Right. And have food on hand.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. All right. Shall we keep walking?
Yep.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay.
Everyone has the same cough as Anne-Marie does because it is damp and rainy all the time. Another tattoo place, and because we're both sick, we can't get our tattoos.
Another thing.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Our friend, the epidemiologist, said that when you're sick, you shouldn't get a tattoo.
So we can't get ours this time in Santiago.
Right.
Gives us more time to think about what we want. True. So if you're out there and you're listening, please let us know if you have recommendations.